Vendors demand answers as they block the Sydney Poitier Bridge.
Open Cabbage Beach! Open Cabbage Beach!
Why did they take the protest from Paradise Island to the bridge? Also,
coming up in the Bahamas tonight, could it be the making of history as we know it? The gender equality bills go to vote this week. What are they saying about them? I'm Clint Watson. Stories ahead.
And then,
all our guys knew that we had to fight.
Two teams fight for a spot in the Hugh Campbell Championship game. The Sunland Stingers look to win their first ever championship, but the Cobras from CC Sweeting stand in their way. It all goes down tonight. The Bahamas Tonight, the National Report, starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This portion of the news brought to you by BTC Everyday.
Cabbage Beach vendors blocked the Paradise Island Bridge today, halting traffic and calling attention to the restricted beach access that's putting their businesses on hold. Good evening, everyone. I'm Keishla Adderley.
And I'm Charisma Robinson. Vaughn Aubrey tells us about the legal issue that's at the heart of the matter.
Cabbage Beach vendors blocked traffic to Paradise Island after a fence was erected Monday morning, blocking their access to the path that leads to the beach. The path is located between the Rio Resort and vacant property, reportedly owned by AI Land Limited. Charo Saunders says the move is a threat to their livelihood.
It is being threatened because we came out today to make money, because yesterday the Minister of Tourism told us that the beach wouldn't be closed come today. But we came to work this morning with so much enthusiasm and so excited just to get our heart broken that we can't make any money today with 3 boats, one of the biggest boats in the world, in the day, the Allure of the Sea. And we yesterday was so rough on the beach. I'm sure everybody behind me could say, money make on the beach. But this morning when we came there and we saw the taxis that were pulling up and repeatedly turned back. So the one good day we were gonna have, they closed the beach.
With police and Paradise Island security personnel blocking beach access, a number of tourists were caught in the middle.
Yeah, we just got off a cruise ship and we wanted to go to the beach, but it's locked.
And we are actually planning to come back to the resort in October, and we wanted to check it out first so we can tell all our friends about it, because we want them to come with us. But we can't see the beach.
The Bahamas, and you think of beaches, but now you see, what are we going to do? We have to go back to the hotel.
Halson Moultrie represents the Cabbage Beach Vendors Association and claims the area map appears to have been redrawn.
Now, this property has been sold in 2014 in June by Atlantis to AI Bahamas, Land Bahamas Limited. And they have sought to change the description on the map and remove illegally the access to Cabbage Beach, which is a public beach.
As the drama moved to the bridge, impeding traffic flow, a heavy police presence moved the protesters to the sidewalk, arrested one demonstrator, allowing traffic to flow again. The demonstrators say they plan to fight for their right to beach access and their workplace at Cabbage Beach.
But I think the fence needs to be taken down because the status quo should remain until the case is over.
These vendors say they will not give up in their fight to feed their families and earn a living, doing what they know best, which is selling goods at Cabbage Beach. Reporting from the foot of the Paradise Island Bridge, I am Vaughn Aubrey, ZNS Network News.
Proposed gender equality legislation will go to a vote on Wednesday in the House of Assembly as the Christie administration gives a second go at securing equal rights for women with those controversial bills. Clint Watson takes a look tonight at the amendments which look to modernize the law.
The 4 amendments to the Gender Equality Bill seeks to bring about equal rights for all Bahamians, particularly our sons and daughters. Head of the Educational Panel for the Constitutional Reform Commission, retired Justice Ruby Nottage, says the First Amendment is Article 8, which gives a child born outside of the Bahamas to a Bahamian mother but married to a non-Bahamian father the right to be Bahamian at birth.
Bahamian fathers have that little advantage on the Bahamian mothers. So we're going to have equal rights for the children born abroad as they are children of our Bahamian citizens.
The Second Amendment is to give equal rights to the spouses of Bahamians. Right now, a Bahamian male who marries a foreign woman can pass citizenship on to her once she applies, but not the reverse. The amendments will allow women to be able to do the same for their foreign spouses. The Third Amendment benefits not just women, but men. It refers to a man who has a child out of wedlock and the child is born to a foreigner. Right now, our law says a child must take the citizenship of its mother out of wedlock. But the amendment will allow fathers to pass citizenship onto their child with a foreign woman once he can prove paternity. The final provision deals with this issue of discrimination. This will make it unlawful to discriminate against someone just because of their sex and will enforce the equality of males and females. Mrs. Noddet says regularizing these concerns also helps to remove the level of anger among many of our children.
Many children today in our Bahamas are disadvantaged. They can't get passports. Their mothers are Bahamian, but because they were born abroad to a non-Bahamian father who is married to their mother, they cannot get a passport because their citizenship is not regarded as being Bahamian. Now, this develops in our society among our children, both feelings of inferiority or frustration, even violence. Because if you cannot travel, that provides you with a great deal of frustration. You're probably a very good student, you know that you can get a scholarship, but how can you travel to take advantage of further learning?
It is believed by the Commission that passing these amendments helps to solidify the family unit.
Our families are fractured, and for various reasons, some of which refer to these constitutional amendments. We need to make sure that the family becomes more coherent, more coalesced, more sticking together. And they can only do that if they respect each other. If we respect people because they are entitled to be Bahamian, if they've been born into a Bahamian marriage or a Bahamian environment, that should apply.
When the debate first began over the amendments, there were concerns that removing discrimination based on sex could open up the door to permitting same-sex marriages.
Same-sex marriage in this country is illegal. There is no law in this country that a same-sex marriage can take place. This amendment to the Constitution doesn't even deal with marriage. This deals with discrimination between two persons, you as a male and me as a female. And it says that we should never be discriminated against. So same-sex marriage is not even on the table. And it does not open any door for same-sex marriage.
Should these amendments receive the approval, the amendments will only apply to new cases.
They are, according to the draft bills that are going to be brought up for the vote, they are not to be retroactive. The provision and the right that now will be given by the Constitution will be a right going forward, so that any children born after this event will be able to take advantage of it. Our rights, even as men and women under these changes, the right not to be discriminated against, will be a right that's enforceable going forward, not backwards. So each of these bills will be something that is applicable in the future after the bills have been passed.
And so on Wednesday, parliamentarians will gather. They'll be the first group to cast their vote to determine whether or not this historic constitutional amendment will actually stand. Then, if it does, it'll be up to the people to determine whether we amend the Constitution and bring equality between male and female, men and women, once and for all. Clint Watson, ZNS Network News.
And thanks so much, Clint. A number of religious leaders are supporting the gender bills. We talked to head of the Anglican Church, the Global United Fellowship leader, and overseer of the Church of God of Prophecy.
We need to be in support of these kinds of amendments so that we can have a country that has equal rights for men and women, and that a country that is following best practices with respect to matters of citizenship and inheritance.
I think we're actually behind schedule as it relates to gender equality. I believe it's important both for our past and our future, because what we do in our present sometimes corrects the mistakes of our past It's never too late to do the right thing. I believe this is a wonderful opportunity for us to show the power of unity and the power of national pride.
The right for their children and for themselves to be treated equally, and I think the Bahamian people and all will see the need for that, and I believe that the Bahamians everywhere should give their full support to the items in the referendum. I don't think politics have any part to play in this because it has nothing to do with the partisan views of anyone. It has to do with Bahamians.
Well, as Wednesday's vote looms, senior clerk of the House of Assembly, David Forbes, is explaining what has to take place in Parliament before a referendum.
Then you have the ones like what we're dealing with, that are what you call doubly entrenched provisions of the Constitution. They require the highest amount of responsibility and response from Parliament. So in Parliament, you have to have a 3/4 majority in order for it to pass Parliament. Once it passes Parliament, it goes on to a referendum, and the majority of the people who are eligible to vote in an election will then decide whether they agree with what the Parliament has decided. But in the House, before you even get to that, what you will notice that will be different this time from probably all of the votes that you've seen taken place in the House of Assembly. You'll notice that the Speaker will vote this time. With these constitutional amendments, the Speaker has what you call an original vote, which means that when the House divides, the first person who will be called upon to vote will be the Speaker.
Foreign Affairs and Immigration Minister Fred Mitchell is continuing to defend the actions taken by the government in the case of 2 Cuban migrants. Last week, the men were ordered released from the Department of Corrections, despite Mitchell's declaration that they're a security risk and should have been detained after their court appearance.
He again stressed that all protocols were carried out in trying to find a third country for the men. However, they were refused. Janine Ferguson has more on this saga.
Cuban nationals Carlos Pupo and Lazario Serra, who were released by the Supreme Court, remain at large, and according to Minister of Foreign Affairs and Immigration Fred Mitchell, were spotted last week in Bimini and are still considered a national security risk.
The court ordered them released, so they're released. The question is, what do you lawfully do after that fact? The advice we have is that they can be rearrested, and if we find them, they will be rearrested.
If and when captured, Minister Mitchell said these men could be charged with no landing status. He further indicated that the Cubans will be held as government seeks a third country for them, as all previous attempts have failed. He listed a number of infractions allegedly committed by these men, including attempts to burn down the Carmichael Road Detention Center. But because of their status, they were never charged.
Dealing with migrant issues, that you try to avoid criminal charges as such, because the assumption is that, the basic assumption is that people are seeking to escape to a better life, so on and so forth. So usually the way you deal with this is just expel the people from the country. You would have expected that these people would be in this position for such a long time, because some countries are very quick to accept people who are seeking a better life. So obviously, for various reasons, countries were not willing to accept these folks.
And although these men were determined to be a national security risk before their release, questions remain on why they were not immediately rearrested by immigration officials once they left court. Minister Mitchell also chastised various media entities for their reporting of the matter, stating that they refused to accept the facts. He reported that a cabinet paper was stolen, but said there are no opposing views among cabinet members on the issue.
We're in one cabinet, and there's no disagreement that I know of on any policy matters with regard to this, but the questions remain as they have been.
Now, the immigration minister also took issue with the pair's legal representative, Fred Smith, QC.
The Tribune headline says, "Don't lay a finger on Cubans." So I'm supposed to be shaking in my boots. Just let the public understand. Fred Smith, QC, does not determine any aspect of public policy in this country. He doesn't impact what happens in immigration. No one pays any attention to him. He is well known for gross exaggerations and defamatory statements against the Department of Immigration.
Meanwhile, as the search continues for the two Cubans, Minister Mitchell anticipates police will issue an all-points bulletin for their arrest later this week. Janae Noel Ferguson, ZNS Network News.